Welcome to session 2 of Ramayana. In session 1, we saw the context of the story and we saw how Valmiki Maharshi was able to pull off this amazing book. In session 2, Valmiki, now having received the boon from Brahma himself, has sat down and he's starting to actually see the visuals. So he takes us right into the city of Ayodhya and he describes the city in good detail. We will touch upon few of those things. So the city of Ayodhya was built on the banks of river Saryu, and it had very tall constructions as a testimonial to the kind of civil engineering that was available at their disposal. He also talks about how the city had so many missiles, very strong fortifications around it, and a lot of tributary kings and merchants from various parts of the world used to come and pay their tributes to the king. So it was a city in all its grandeur, and since everyone were paying tribute, uh, it certainly meant that the king was recognized as an emperor. The city was also home to thousands of warriors, also called or referred to as Maharadas all over the book. So uh, this was one part of the city. More importantly, the city was filled with people, and they are referred to as citizens who were almost equal to rishis. And that's a very big statement to make because we already saw who rishis are. So everyone in the city of Ayodhya were in a spiritual seeking of their own, and they were almost equal to rishis. They were well versed in the Vedas and Vedangas, and all of them were generous, truthful, and dignified. The city was also filled with excellent dvijas, uh, where Valmiki refers to dvijas as Brahmins and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. Now, here, uh, Brahmins and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Sudras have always been referred to as examples of a caste system that has been followed in ancient India and continues to take various forms right now. But back in the Vedas and in any Sanskrit text of the past, the word Dvija was used to describe these sections of people. So, and what does the word Dvija actually mean? Dvija means reborn or born twice. So, the intention is that when a person is born, male or female, they are born into a certain family, and then later on, they actually find their seeking. So they are passionate about a particular field, about a particular area of knowledge, and accordingly they seek a guru. And when they find the right guru, it is said that they are reborn under that guru. So this particular reference of caste system back when Ramayana was written was never a blood lineage. A Brahmin son doesn't become a Brahmin, or a Kshatriya's someone born into a Kshatriya family doesn't automatically become a Kshatriya. The seeking of that person and where he is reborn, under which guru, actually decided into what section he went. And even the word kula, which is the Sanskrit equivalent of caste, the word kula meant people who are seeking or people who have obtained similar kind of knowledge. And people were divided into these clubs, sort of, so that they can have discussions. They all have common goals, so they can come together and so on. And perhaps over the centuries, over the various thousands of years, this system kind of transformed itself to become more of a blood lineage kind of a caste system. That could have happened, but in the book, it is not referred to as a blood lineage. Definitely, person is physically born, and at a later date, he's again reborn spiritually. So this city was full of Dvijas, and which means that all of them have found their gurus, which is a very big thing back then. You cannot go and seek a guru once you are. It is once your mind and body are ready, the guru comes and seeks you. Is what is said. So then we come to the emperor who's ruling almost the entire land from this city, King Dasharatha. So King Dasharatha, he was an amazing warrior himself, and he was very devoted to the practice of dharma. It said that he could uh, drive his chariot and fight people from 10 different directions, and all the 10 would feel as if he's replying to them alone. So that such was his speed and his ability in fighting various Maharajas in a single handed manner. In his kingdom, he made sure that everyone ate food to their full satisfaction and everyone were charitable. No one could be seen uh, who did not have control over emotions and passions. Very big line followed by this: no one was distracted, no one was depressed. And that is something that we all wish uh, the society around us to be in, right? No one was distracted, which means that they were very committed to whatever they were seeking. And we already saw they were all under their spiritual journey, and no one was depressed. They were quite happy in their path, and they were fully rejuvenated every single day. There wasn't anyone jealous or incompetent. Now, Dasharatha is, it's said in the book that he ruled the entire world. Perhaps what we mean here is that he's recognized as the leading king among all the other kings. And he had eight very capable ministers to help him run this big machinery. Uh, Drishti, Jayanta, Vijaya, Siddhartha, Arthasadhaka, Ashoka, Mantrapala, and Sumantra. These were the names of his eight ministers that are described. He also had, for his luck, excellent gurus. Vashishta himself, a Brahmarshi, and Vamadeva. These were the family priests for generations. So Dasharatha is born into a um, Ikshwaku family dynasty. So we will cover later on what Ikshwaku means and what do these family lineages mean. But for now, just think of it as Ikshwaku dynasty and Dasharatha being the current king in that lineage. So Vashishta was Ikshwaku's spiritual guru for many centuries, even before Dasharatha came in. So it is also mentioned that Dasharatha was such a great warrior that Lord Indra came and took his help to fight against various asuras. So that speaks volumes about his capability. So, so here was a person who was having everything, but he lacked one thing. He didn't have sons. He had one daughter by the name Shanta. It is also referred to as Shanti in some of the cases. And although he had a daughter, he had longing for sons. And here again, a very important question. So, why the preference for sons and why not daughters? Because every spiritual seeker, if they are in a marriage kind of a setup, we will actually see in the further sessions what marriage meant back then. But when you're in a marriage kind of a setup, you're actually performing some puja daily to a deity or an idol that you have uh, kept as symbolically kept at your home. And if you have a daughter, the daughter would get married and go to another house, perhaps perform the pujas there. So the father is worried that someone needs to continue the puja at home and the duties of continuing the present home, the running of the present home, which obviously they cannot impose on a daughter because the daughter's duties would be elsewhere. And hence, there was always the requirement of having a son so that the son would stay put and continue over here. Not to say that a daughter cannot do the same, but it was rare back then that the daughter gets married and the son in law comes and stays over here. But if such is the case, then there is no requirement of a daughter. This is how, sorry, no requirement of a son compulsorily. This is how King Dasharatha and people back then were thinking. So he thought he was more than 40 to 50,000 years old, and he was ruling the kingdom in an excellent fashion. But he thought that this is time for him to start looking for sons. And he realized that although he had three queens, he didn't have sons. So there is something that is preventing him from having sons. So he turned back to Dharma, he turned back to Vedas, and he said that yes, I want to perform some sort of a yajna or a sacrifice to the gods in order to receive sons. So, so he said, so he started what is called as a Ashwamedha Yajna, which is a very, very elaborate process that is described in the text. And so while he started the yajna, so he invited a lot of people. A temporary structure was erected. So Ashwamedha Yajna is a very costly affair and a very elaborate process. It takes a year to complete. In a nutshell, uh, a horse is released, and a year later, the horse has to come back untouched, and that horse is sacrificed. So, uh, we we look at this as pure animal sacrifice or brutality against animals? Let's see. It's coming up very soon. So, but meanwhile, as he started the Ashwamedha Yajna on advice of Vashishta, uh, Sumantra, who is his minister, comes to him and he says that I've suddenly remembered that one day Dasharatha, when you were a small boy, Sanat Kumara. Sanat Kumara is referred to as one of the sons, four sons of that Brahma has created, and they are supposed to be eternal, and they keep jumping realms, and they keep instructing people, keep telling them a few good things that are coming up, and so on. They so one day this Sanat Kumara had come to the court, Ikshvaku court, when Dasharatha's father was ruling, and he predicted that Dasharatha will one day perform a yajna called Putra Kamishti, which is a sacrifice for getting a son in return. And through this sacrifice, Dasharatha will receive four brilliant sons. So, as Sumantra said this to Dasharatha referred to Vashishta again, saying that, dear Guru, I am performing Ashwamedha Yajna, but is Putrakamishti what I need to do? And Vashishta concurred and said, yes. Uh, he said that Putrakamishti is not a very expensive yajna, but the problem is that the priest that should perform this yajna has to be a very special person. And finding such a person is extremely difficult. Many conditions, but one of the main ones is that the person shouldn't have even seen or known that there is a woman until the time of his marriage. So Such a great personality, devoted to spiritual seeking right from uh, birth, can only perform this yagna. So, luckily, after hearing these words, uh, they could all remember that there is a an amazing priest called Rishasringa Maharshi, and that person has recently married Shanta, which is the daughter of Dasharatha, who is now staying with the Romapada king in a nearby country or a nearby city. So Dasharatha now went and he requested Ramapada to send his daughter and son-in-law back with him to Ayodhya, and explained that he's performing this yajna, and Ramapada was very happy and he asked them to leave immediately. There is a huge story on who this Rishasringa Maharshi is, and his father, and what his backstory is. But at this point, we skip that. And once Rishasringa came in, he he immediately started blending into the group and started giving instructions on what is required to perform Putrakamishti as along with or as soon as the Ashwamedha Yajna ends. And he said a word. He said, "For this thought that you have of performing a yajna, you are a strong believer of Vedas and Dharma, and you will surely get four sons of immense capability. And this blessing from coming from a saint like Rishasringa means that it is definitely going to happen." See, when a guru blesses, a guru of such spiritual seeking and purity gives a blessing, it is God's duty that to make sure that that blessing happens. So once that blessing was received, it is as good as Dashrada already has sons, because now it's only a sequence of events that need to happen. That time needs to elapse for that thing to occur, but it is definitely going to happen because someone like Rishasringa has blessed him, and Vashishta said Tadastu, or saying that yes, I conquer and it is my blessing as well. So Dasharata was very happy, and the sacrificial stage was constructed. Uh, it was a very detailed construction that is described. Um Everyone involved in the sacrifice, they were treated, given a specific kind of food to ensure that they don't weaken. The horse came back after a year. The sacrificial post where the horse was tied was created with a certain dimension, with a certain material. The way the horse was sacrificed, there was no bloodshed. Just through mantras and three blows of the sword by the main queen, who is Kaushalya, um, with no blood spilling over, the horse was sacrificed with no pain. So the marrow was extracted from the bones, and certain other procedures followed. So it looked as if they were doing something, some sort of a procedure where they were releasing the soul of the horse, and they had some sort of a technique. So it wasn't described as a blind uh, sacrifice where the animal is chopped off. So obviously, perhaps we are not aware of what they were doing back then. But if you look at various other texts from Vedas, um, transplanting the head of an animal to a human being has happened so many times. Lord Ganesha being a very famous example. So perhaps they knew some sort of a mechanism uh, to do something with other living creatures, etc. Uh, and it is also said that this horse, the sacrificial horse, is also self-selected by the horse itself. And now that is not mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana, but is said by few other um, analysts about this topic. So that is about the sacrifice part. Once the horse is sacrificed in this manner, Kaushalya has to actually spend one night with the horse, post the sacrifice, and without any fear or any sort of a discomfort in her heart. She has to spend sleep over there with immense satisfaction and happiness. So she did that as well. And post that, the Putrakamishi Yajna also started. And this is what happens post that is amazing, definitely, when you read it for the first time. So, as the Yajna came to a close, so Yajna, if you have seen or being part of this kind of a procedure, towards the middle and the end of the Yajna, you actually offer few things into the fire where you utter the name of the god that you have that has to receive it. So this is a an offering for Indra, this is an offering for Lord Varuna, this is an offering for Lord Yama, and so on and so on. So here, as the Putrakamishi Yajna was ending, all the gods came down and they actually sat at their designated positions right there. Everyone could physically see them. So this was possible back then in Treta Yuga, where this story is happening. Currently, in our Yuga, also yajnas exist, but the offering to the gods goes where we can't see them physically, perhaps, but it is said that it goes through the fire to them. So all the gods were seated there, and all the devatas assembled as per their traditions. And then finally, Lord Brahma also came down, and all the gods got up and they addressed the Creator. They praised him. He too sat down. So it is said that almost 60% of the treasury that Dasharatha had, he distributed it back in form of gold and food and clothes and other things during this entire 1 year course that the yajna was happening. And then enters one of the major characters of this book, Ravana. So obviously, because all the devatas are sitting there, they are all discussing whatever is the hot topic, right? That's what happens when we all meet up. We discuss whatever is the major current affair bothering us. And Ravana was their biggest topic back then. So they all pleaded to Brahma that, Ravana is creating a huge mess, and it's becoming very difficult to sustain the way he is going about things. The way they describe Ravana said that, the devatas are so scared of him that when he's standing on his balcony, even the sun kind of dims down the light a bit so that he doesn't get angry, and the wind blows a little gently. Even the ocean is kind of subduing its waves so that he can see a calm ocean. So that is the kind of control or the kind of respect that he was demanding from all the forces of nature themselves. And obviously, Ravana had a boon where he could not be killed by any devata or any asura or any of the other beings for that matter. He is only fit to be destroyed or killed by a man or a monkey or a bear. And man, a man killing Ravana was almost considered as impossible back then, because man is a considered as a much weaker species compared to the others like yakshas and kinnaras and so many other species whom we will perhaps be encountering in different parts of this book. But back then, humans were not the only species, clearly, who could think and who could write and who could rule a kingdom. There were many other species in different lokas having their own kingdoms, their own consciousness, and so on. So, man was a very weaker species compared to the others. And Ravana was so confident that he ignored man and monkey when he requested his bone. Um so all these discussions were happening, and while this was happening, Lord Vishnu appeared with a in his splendid, uh, with the conch and a mace in his hands, and all his apparel, everything. So everyone got up, including Brahma, and they prayed to him. They folded his hands, and Vishnu also sat down over there. And the same discussion happened, and they all pleaded Vishnu to do something about Ravana. And Vishnu then declared that, yes, I am here, and I hear you, and I will choose this great king Dasharatha, and I will choose him as my father. So, having said that, uh, Vishnu disappeared from there, and with that, we too come to an end of our session.